Hey, Ralph, how's it going?
I'm doing great, Yvonne. How about you?
Look at us. We're together.
I know.
We're side by side.
This does not happen very often.
We are giddy because we are together at a conference in St. Pete Beach at the beautiful Don Cesar.
Beautiful.
And so we are at NCSI. Not sure when this episode is going to air, but I don't care. It's a beautiful hotel. It's a little wet outside, but I don't care. I'm at my favorite place.
This is your favorite. It really is.
This is one of my favorites. Boy, are we in for a treat today, Ralph.
Oh, you are not kidding. One of my absolute favorites. Just love her. A leader, a leader in our industry. That's what she is.
I agree. I love her too. I love all of our guests, but I really love Rosa Royo. She was on, I want to say she was on season 1 or season 2, early on. Loved our conversation with her then, but I really loved our conversation today. We talked to Rosa about her perspective of being a self-insured employer. She is the director of workers' compensation and loss prevention. So she has a lot of things she does, wears a lot of hats at Miami-Dade County Public Schools. So today we talk about pretty much focused on workers' compensation and some of the things that she does in her program that's getting amazing results.
Amazing is right. I marvel at it. I really do.
So we're not going to waste your time. Let's go talk to Rosa.
Let's do it.
And hello, Rosa. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. We're so happy to have you join us again. So before we get started, yes, Rafael and I are together. We're in St. Petersburg, specifically St. Petersburg Beach at the NCSI conference. And Rosa, for guests that may not know you, where are you joining us from?
I am joining you from a very wet Miami today. We've had a drought forever, but it is storming now. And I live out near the Everglades, so we get it big.
Well, it's pretty wet here too.
Yeah.
We don't see that too often here at St. Pete Beach, but it's still pretty.
Yeah,
right?
It's beautiful.
Well, again, thank you for joining us today. That you are not a first-time guest to this podcast. So again, thanks for joining us again. And today we're going to talk about what it's like to look at workers' compensation from your perspective, which is a self-insured employer's perspective. Is that right?
Yes.
And so for those, again, that may not know you, Rosa Royo is Director of Workers' Compensation and Loss Prevention at Miami-Dade Public Schools, Miami-Dade County Public Schools. So Rosa, how long have you been doing that?
A little over 22 years. It's doesn't seem like it's been that long, but a little over 22 years.
So you know what you're doing, and since we've talked to you before, we know a little bit about your program, but we're going to get a lot more into that today. And we'll be talking about how you look at your program, maybe some of the things that you do that are unique to your program, but that might be things that other people could think about doing in their program. So let's get started. Ralph, do you want to start? Oh, I forgot the opening question. Ralph's laughing because we just talked about this 30 seconds ago.
We did. Folks, we're getting to that age.
So what we'd like to talk about today is something that we're doing that might be on the creative side that either we haven't done before or we haven't done in a long while. So Rosa, I'm going to start with you. What's something that you've done recently or that you are doing now that is creative and maybe something you haven't done before?
What I spend the most amount of my time now is doing guitar related things. I've become, I think, a little bit one note. I used to do more art. I technically work out of my art studio where I do mosaic glass. Haven't done any glass work in about a year. But I also play guitar here and spend an inordinate amount of time looking at other people's podcasts and looking at guitars that one should buy.
That's awesome. I love that.
I know.
So music, we know that music is really good for us for a lot of different reasons. So you're enjoying it?
You know, it has been incredibly expansive.
Mhm.
I asked for a guitar about 25 years ago, and it wasn't the guitar that I wanted, and it sat in the corner untouched until right about the pandemic. And I had on my Christmas list, probably for 30 years, that I wanted a banjo. And so the Christmas before the pandemic, so that would be Christmas of 19, I got a banjo, and I started to take banjo and guitar lessons, and then the pandemic hit, and I wasn't about to sit in a little 2x4 room, you know, knees to knees with a total stranger. And so I got as far as I could on my own, and I kind of walked away from it. And then about 2 years ago, I thought, you know, this was really something I was enjoying.
Mm.
And I started to think about the things that I've, you know, that you put off, that you think that you have all the time in the world to get to.
Mm.
And I thought, you know, this is my dream time, and I'm going to work on this every day, even if it's 10 minutes. And so that's when I discovered the total rabbit hole that is YouTube music, and just started to do things based on what I'd find on YouTube and having a really good time. And a year ago, I decided to take formal lessons because I did feel like a little bit of a trained monkey. Because if somebody on one site said, do this, I'd do it. And then somebody on another site would say, never do that. And so it's been incredibly therapeutic. I'm 61, so most of my learning revolves around what I do professionally. And so it's really cool to be learning things and finding new musicians, rediscovering old songs, listening differently to things that you didn't know. I can now listen to. I have to admit that I'm stuck in, you know, sort of mid 70s rock, but I can listen to it.
That's a good era. That's a good time to be stuck in.
And I can hear that it's multiple guitars and the different notes and things. So it's been really a wonderful experience.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Ralph, how about you?
I love that. I love that, Rosa. I'm learning from you. Maybe I need to start focusing on doing some of that. What I've been focusing on is I've played tennis all my life, but I'm trying to rediscover some different components or learning. You know, I used to be a double-handed backhand since I played on clay, trying to do a little more serve and volley, trying to outside my window, outside my box. But maybe the music. I've never learned to play an instrument, but that sounds like something I always wanted to. Sounds like something I should also maybe, you know, go look into.
Yeah, you know, my husband, who you know very well, Kuko is a huge music buff. And so that's why I say the 70s is a good era to get stuck in because he loves music. He also goes down the rabbit hole on YouTube and listens to all kinds of music and reaction videos of people that are younger that are just hearing some of that 70s music for the first time. And he has a lot of fun with it.
Kuko is what a talent because we've played games as a family before. And I mean, his array of music knowledge, I mean, it is vast.
It's pretty
he knows
good.
all of it.
And he's passed that on to my daughters as well. So they're good music buffs. Well, anyway, so what have I done? I love doodling as sort of a therapeutic creative outlet. I wish I had more time to do it, but you know, I agree, Rosa, even 10 minutes at a time is such a really good way to sort of be mindful, focus on the activity that you're doing and sort of shut the world out. And you're absolutely right. Even 10 minutes a day is a good amount of time to spend on something like that. So thanks for sharing.
A plug that has nothing to do with anything that we're going to talk about here, but I do think that it's important to keep our brains learning on different levels and different planes. And tactile learning, whether it's through a sport, art, where you combine visual, balance, any of those things is really important for brain health. So
I agree.
True.
And look at that. We just touched on all three. You touched on sports, she touched on music, and I touched on the more tactile stuff. So awesome. All right. So that was a really good conversation. See, we should ask these unique questions more often.
I love it. Yep.
And the things that you learn. So, Rosa, let's dive into talking about what your perspective of the workers' compensation industry is in. So, as we shared with you and as we've shared with our listeners, this year we're taking a little bit different approach to our podcast. We love getting to connect with people like you and hear from you and hear what you're up to. But we also wanted to take a little bit more of an educational spin on things and sort of break things down. That was the initial thought process behind the name Deconstructing Comp. Break down complex issues in the system into bite-sized chunks that people could understand. And we're really trying to encourage younger folks. We're starting to see more younger folks coming into the industry. We absolutely need them to come into the industry. And we're trying to not only educate so they can learn quicker than we all did, because we all learned through the school of hard knocks. And we want them to learn and be happy to be here, right? Enjoy the industry. So let's talk about, from your perspective, the workers' comp industry. So again, you're involved and responsible for a very large program, Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Tell us a little bit, because that's a lot. Tell us a little bit about what you are thinking about on a daily basis and how quickly that changes and how do you handle all of that?
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you for your perspective, because like many people, I fell into this industry. And when I did, I didn't have this resource that, somebody could grab my hand and say, okay, you need to pay attention to this or whatever. So I had plenty of hard knocks and trips and falls and whatever in that process of learning, where you take one step forward and 18 steps back. So, thank you for putting this together. I think that our industry, now more than ever, has to be able to pivot. We need to be very facile. Things are changing on a national and a local level, and I think that we need to be looking at the pieces of our different programs and where those pieces are fragile, what you need to bolster, where you can anticipate problems. I spend a lot of time concerned about access to quality medical care. And Miami-Dade County is not a small county. We're not a rural area. They have different challenges. But post-pandemic, access seems to be slower. You need somebody seeing stat, and you call your vendor community, and you can see them in November, and you've got somebody with a surgery that needs to happen, but they can't clear because they're diabetics, but you can't get an endocrinologist, and so that is a constant focus for us. A lot of docs in our community are aging out. Mm-hmm. So bringing in new docs that may not see workers' comp as something that they ever thought they'd focus on, different practice areas because of our size as an employer. We use a lot. We need gynecologists, dermatologists, pulmonologists, not just the standard norm that we're accustomed to. Mm-hmm. So I do spend a lot of time looking at that. I spend a lot of time thinking about what I can bring to my program that is going to enhance what we do, that is going to enhance the relationship that I have with injured workers or workers that may be injured at some other future point, but already should have an experience with me as a colleague and as somebody who's credible, who's not adversarial, who's interested in advocating for them. And how to do that without adding cost to my program.
That's a lot, Ralph.
It is. Let's talk about that point, Rosa, for a minute or two here, because that is so essential. That is so key. Formulating a relationship with you and your department so that folks are aware you exist and that folks understand your role and how you can be of help and assistance. There aren't very many institutions out there who've been able to do that successfully. But I know a little bit about your program and about you and the things that you have brought onto the program over the many years that you have led it, and how you've been able to reach out to the entire community, not just to your specific worker, but to their families as well, and bring that in. So share a little bit of how you've done that, your program has done that, and how you continue to evolve in that regard.
I never want somebody to be sitting out there not knowing what the next step is.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know it happens.
Yep.
Somebody gets hurt and they don't know what the next step is, and they're not getting a response back as quickly as they want, or a response that they understand. So for me, it starts, one, with making myself available. One of the ways that I do that is every injured worker gets a get well card in English and Spanish that I hand sign. If you're on Zoom with me, a lot of the times I'm sitting with my head down. What I'm doing is signing get well cards. And so I put my business card in there, and if there's no one that they can think of getting a hold of, they've got access to me. If somebody wants to reach out to their union and have their union be a go-between, perfectly fine with that. I have a relationship with most of our unions that has been forged over time, do a lot of union training so that they know what they should be expecting from a workers' comp program. And developing a relationship there where there's trust and legitimacy. They know what they can expect. We have over 450 school sites.
Wow.
Any principal that wants my personal cell phone, I live off of my cell phone. I give it to them. I'd rather get that phone call than have it go somewhere where it then becomes something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, communication is the key. I stress that as part of our program mission and vision. There's a lot that you can do as an adjuster or a nurse on this program where I may not share the same path. I might have done it differently, but I'm going to go with you. The one thing that's a cardinal sin on this program is that you don't call somebody back.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, and our folks can be difficult. They will call you at 9:05, 9:06, 9:07, 9:15, but obviously we haven't satisfied whatever the issue is if they're making those phone calls. And so, you stop your day and you make a phone call.
Mm. Let's put that in perspective a little bit, Rosa. So you mentioned that you sign get well cards for your injured employees. Give us an idea of what that amounts to, like on a monthly basis.
It varies. I do about 4,000 a year.
That's a lot. And so how much time are you talking? I heard you say that you sort of multitask when you're on Zoom meetings and whatnot. I don't know if that's a good thing we should share or not, but I appreciate you being transparent. And so How much time per week do you think you spend doing that activity?
Well, first of all, I'm not signing anything right now. You can see my hand. And you'd be surprised how many times when you're multitasking, you can misspell your own 4-letter name.
I know, believe me, I know that.
And again, I'll sign in batches.
Yeah.
So if I have a moment, like when we're doing, we do file reviews where we look at anybody who's losing time or not in their pre-injury work site. So that's every adjuster. We go through a review.
Mm-hmm.
We look at nursing files. And then we do legal file reviews on anything that's litigated. So we do that on a quarterly basis. And that is a significant investment of time where we will be on a Zoom 10 hours a day, for several days a week for like 3 weeks. And I'll take that opportunity where I'm listening, because that is my job to, react to what I'm being told. But I'm doing a lot of signing. Yeah. And then I may let it go for a while, and then I'll batch some more.
Well, I like the idea that you're talking about batching. And, I'm just bringing that up and kind of pausing on this point for a minute, because we hear this over and over again, that this piece, this way of communicating, sending a simple get well card, really goes far to keep the communication lines open with the employee. But, I know for one, I've been in many presentations where we've mentioned that, and you'll hear from the audience, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. But again, thank you for mentioning it, because I do think it really goes a long way to helping keep those lines open.
If I can add to that, because nobody has time for it. Mm. But it's something that I used to do in my prior employer. And, pennies count for a school system. Mm-hmm. So there's a cost to getting these cards printed. Mm-hmm. And I got a lot of pushback originally. You're not going to have time. You're not, the cost to send them out and what have you. And I appreciate that Gallagher Bassett sends them out with the initial package now in order to help us defray the cost of sending them and the personnel, because, somebody has to put them in an envelope and attach a stamp or do something to get them out. Mm-hmm. But when I started doing it, I saw a 16% drop in my litigation. So if you could save X amount of money tied to litigation, or you could reduce any claims going into litigation by even 5%, you're talking real money. And I think it's worthy of setting time aside for something that simple, because most of the stuff in our industry doesn't have such a simple fix.
No. And I think what's so beautiful about that is that not only is it, so you're basically saying there's a demonstrable return. There's definite return on your investment of time and the money to send it out that reduces litigation. But guess what? I'd be willing to bet that it's also really good time spent for you or any other person that's doing it, because it's a very mindful activity, right? So what a simple way to just get something done that is a good thing all the way around.
I love it. I just love it, because it's so significant, right? That and this is at the highest level, because it's your time that you're devoting to saying, hope you get better, right? The recipient of that message, right, appreciates it, and you've got the numbers to prove that. A lot of us are always asking for, show me, right? Show me the numbers, show me the proof, show me that there is a benefit behind it, and you can do that. And it makes complete sense. If you've ever been on the receiving end of all of that, how does it make you feel, right? When the boss way upstairs takes the time to say, hey, we're thinking about you. Hope you're feeling better.
And that's the other thing I was going to say, is that to me, it demonstrates that you're setting the tone, the culture of your workplace. And I think that's really important.
I do too.
And so he was saying that because he's the one that's always doing that to me. Show me, Yvonne, show me how that's going to make a difference. So thank you, Rosa.
I knew exactly. You picked that up immediately. But it's so meaningful, right, that you're doing that. Because like Yvonne said, we hear it all the time. I don't have the time. Well, you have to make the time. When you're a leader, especially, gosh, Rosa, when I think about the numbers, the sheer volume of folks, right, that you oversee, and the issues and injuries and things that happen, right, it is so incredibly, it's so amazing, right, that despite all your responsibilities, that you consider that to be a component of your must every month, right, to that tune of thousands of cases every year. It speaks volume about the humanity, of how you're caring for your folks. I love that.
So thanks for sharing that, Rosa. And something else I kind of want to lean back into that you mentioned is since COVID, since the pandemic, there's an issue, and we're hearing this across the board, the difficulty in getting providers and the right amount of providers, the right kinds of providers for your needs. So could you share with us, Rosa, how do you go about it? Do you have any tips for people that are having that struggle? Because we're also hearing we're getting less and less providers that want to be in the workers' compensation system. So how do you go about finding the right providers for your program?
I have to say that I am blessed. I don't know if you know Isabel Del Valle. She is in charge of provider relations on our program. She's a Gallagher VP. And we work hand in hand, identifying providers out there. We spend an awful lot of time crisscrossing the South Florida area, visiting with providers. A lot of the times, particularly young docs coming into the industry, they didn't learn about workers' comp.
Right.
This wasn't anything that they focused on or anybody talked about, unless, maybe if they are the child of a physician or something like that, and they might have had some experience with it. But we do a lot of conversation. At the end of the day, we are the top payer in the industry, and there is an administrative overlay that comes with whatever type of medicine you're practicing. So the idea that comp is more onerous, I see what the health side requires them to do, and peer reviews and, all kinds of things. I think each side of medical practice comes with some administrative piece. Once you figure out how to navigate that, I don't think comp is a worse space or a better space. It's a different space. And again, it is a high payer, and I think it allows for more flexibility than the health side because of some of the things that they can bill for that, quite frankly, they can't on the health side. So that's an attractant, that and the ability to earn at a higher percentage of the Medicare allowable.
That's an interesting perspective, because that's sort of not what you would think the common perception is. So it's a great point to call out. And I'm happy to hear that you mentioned with the help of Gallagher Bassett, you're visiting providers and getting to that. I used to work for a company way long ago that was known for its specialty provider network, and our provider network team, that's exactly what they did. And it really goes a long way to know that you're visiting the providers that you're working with, making sure that they're knowledgeable and whatnot. Ralph?
I love that, Rosa, and it's true. We should be screaming it at the top of our lungs. We in comp pay better than the Medicare, Medicaid, and oftentimes even usual and customary, right? So it is a stable system that wants and welcomes medical providers and will pay its providers, a fair fee for the service. It really is one of the strings. So I'm so glad to hear you say that out loud. We should all be singing that, again and again.
Yeah, and so whether you're with a large program like Rosa's or a smaller employer, that same concept applies. It's really critical to know your providers, and like, some other folks that we talk about the importance of having letters of agreement if you have to go out a network, if you're in a state that has a network. But anyway, great point, Rosa.
Are you welcoming these new doctors to the system, Rosa? How tough is it today to find the right doctors, the specialty, if you will, right? If I asked you, for example, what was it like 20 years ago versus what is it like today? How much tougher is it today?
Ralph, I see like ebb and flow.
Mm.
There was a time about 10 years ago, you couldn't find a hand surgeon down here no matter what. You could have a pile of money and you weren't going to find a hand surgeon because a lot of them were doing cosmetic work.
Mm.
And so, and then you get a flood.
Right.
There are a lot of changes happening to Medicare and Medicaid, and I think that may be an opportunity for comp, for docs who then need to make up that revenue stream that might consider comp who hadn't previously considered. So always looking for the opportunity.
Yeah.
In terms of, okay, changes are coming. How do we navigate that? How do we find the opportunity in the challenge?
Love that.
Me too. Leadership, because you're absolutely right. Significant changes in both of those systems. And from a business perspective, a doctor and his staff have to find a way to make sure that they're still bringing in the sufficient income. So I think you're absolutely right. I'm so glad to hear you think outside that box to be able to use what may be a negative as an opportunity for our industry here. Love that.
So, and it makes me think about just across the board, we talk about this a lot, you and I. We are at a point in time, like you said, Rosa, things ebb and flow always, right? But we're at a point in time in the workers' compensation industry. I mean, we all love the industry. You said you fell into it. I sort of fell into it, but I have stayed in the industry because I find such meaningful relationships, and I love the work that I do. I love educating people about workers' compensation. I love breaking down complicated topics into things that people can understand. And I think that I've said this before many times. We are at a point where we really need to be careful about how we talk about our industry, the words we choose to describe it, how we articulate it. And like you just mentioned, a great point, Rosa, this is a really good opportunity for providers. And there's somebody else that we talked to recently that, if you just spend the time educating folks about the opportunities that are here, it's different than what the perception is. Right. And so it's up to us inside the industry to sort of manage that narrative, right? So thank you for sharing that. It's so important. We're going to need to start wrapping it up. Is there anything we didn't ask Rosa that we should before we start wrapping?
What else is out there, Rosa? What's keeping you up at night? What kind of challenges, are you thinking are forthcoming, right? That we need to be prepared for, that you're starting to think through, maybe plan for?
Ralph, I'm getting into that old and cranky phase of my life. And I get frustrated because, to the point that Yvonne just made, we need to control the narrative, and we need to control the narrative in a very positive way. And a lot of the times we don't. Mm-hmm. I think that we need to be better learners about our own industry. We cycle through things that didn't work 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and we keep reinventing the same thing. Mm. And so I have incredible passion for taking care of our injured workers. Mm-hmm. That is what drives me. That's what has kept me in this industry. I think that providing that service is what I was born to do. And so I do get frustrated when I hear sort of that same hackneyed, wily employee, you know, it's the worker, it's the worker, it's the worker. My challenge is a challenge to me to constantly retool what I'm doing. So in 2024, with double-digit medical inflation and all of the changes that we've all been hit with, I have consistently over the last 10 years performed better than I did in 2012.
Wow.
To the tune, I finished 2024 $12 million less a year than I was in 2012.
Yowza.
That is amazing.
And that is, again, challenge to myself. How do I remove the friction? How do I reduce the cost? So that's on me to contract better, to provide better care so that people are more comfortable, to create better relationships so that people see me as an advocate, to make people healthier, which is a whole aspect of the program that you're familiar with. You know, where we're getting you from the point of accident and saying, okay, listen, you got hurt, but we're going to help you lose some weight, and we're going to help you move better so that you can recover quicker. And we're doing meal replacements and, you know, all kinds of things that are different, that are innovating. And Ralph, just to satisfy your need, that on the surface seem just like a nice human rights kind of a touchy-feely, and a great kind of a thing. And it is, but there's also a dollar value that attaches to treating people well.
That's right. I love that. So Rosa, I want to tie it back. I love how this is wrapping up, because we started the conversation talking about doing something different, forcing ourselves out of our comfort zone, if you will, to learn different things and different ways to do things. So how beautiful of a way to tie that back into what you're talking about. So like we've been saying, we've been in this industry for a long while and we've seen a lot of things, but I think one thing that we could really all learn from, those of us that have been in the industry for a while, is to sit back and look at how differently younger generations look at things and approach things, and adapt sort of some of that thinking to how we approach our issues, right? Because the same old way to fix a problem doesn't always work.
Yep.
We've proven that for many years. So I love it.
Me too. Rosa, you're such a leader.
Yes.
You really are. You're a thought leader in process, operationally, management. I mean, I really, through this conversation, and we've had multiples here, and you know, as we see each other at some conferences, we get a few minutes together. But through today's conversation, that's what I'm absorbing, right? At the highest level, the leadership that you're providing, your team, your organization, one of the largest school districts in the entire, country. That leadership, it's right here. It starts with you. And the example that you're providing us all, we're part of this industry, we're learning from you. It really is that you can be humane, you can do the right thing, you can be the helper, and yet, right, be financially able to explain the why, because then we benefit from it. I mean, the numbers you've shared with us today, holy cow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and again, I'm going to go back to saying, like, these things are not necessarily rocket science. It does take time, but I think what you're telling us, Rosa, is prioritizing these things that they're not necessarily such a big expensive thing to do. It's a requirement of time, right, to make these things happen. but such a big payoff in the end. And what that demonstrates again to your workers is that you care. It's creating that culture of caring. It's just not that hard.
Well, it is hard.
Well, I mean, it takes work, it takes time and effort, but I'm saying it's not a magic formula that people can't understand.
That you're the idea.
And I think we can understand that my program is going to be different from,
Sure.
somebody who's got a factory or, whatever. Although we have construction, we have our own police, we have, media, whatever. So we touch a lot of different industries that people wouldn't, we transport 230,000 kids a day, twice a day. So, we are in a number of these industries, and whether you're small or large, are there hurdles? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Do I sometimes feel stupid because I've created things that add additional work to me? Yes.
Me too.
What was that? Did I see your hand
up? Absolutely.
But on our own scale, whether you're Joe's Trophy Shop and you have 10 employees, or you have 10,000 employees, or whatever the number is, on our own scale, we can do things that can make that difference, that can create that relationship, while also being financially responsible to our employers.
I love it. This has really, really hit my satisfaction.
Aren't you happy that I chased Rosa down and
yes.
made her?
yes, all the way.
I think I was in the bathroom when Yvonne was like,
"No, you're kidding. She's kidding." People that know me know I would not be past doing that, but I did not do it.
And that's why it's so true.
Yeah. Well, Rosa, it was so good to see you recently when we bumped into each other. You're looking great. You're doing great and amazing things. Thank you. Anything else, Ralph?
Love you, Rosa. You really are.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. This is a wonderful opportunity for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can't wait to see you again soon.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
WCI.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So until then, Rosa, hasta luego.
Hasta luego.